It's totally different from America. It's totally different. Like, just being there, you can feel like a different air, and everything is smaller. Everything is smaller, from the food to the houses to the cars to the streets to the people. Like, it's all smaller than America. And so, I'm part Japanese, but I'm kind of American sized. And so when I first went to Japan, I kind of felt like everything was tight. Like, I was squeezed into a small space. And I would go into like the subway stations, and my head would touch the ceiling. And like, I'm only 6'1", I'm not that freakishly tall, but I was struggling to fit. And there's all these little Japanese people who are like 5'3", just like cruising along next to me in their business suits. I just felt really out of place for a little bit while. And later I got used to it and actually forgot that I was American. But it's smaller. The food is really good though, but it does take some getting used to for most people. Like, you'll eat rice every single day. So if you like rice, Japan's a great place to live. And if you like fish, it's a great place to live, yeah. People in Japan work like 60 hours a week on average. They're really hard workers. So like, it's a really low crime country. There's almost no crime. I think in the mission, the most dangerous area had like a murder a week in like the whole area. It's really low crime. And everywhere you go, you can go see a shrine, like a Buddhist shrine of some sort. And I don't know if you've seen something like that before. They're really cool looking, really old and made out of wood and pretty colors and stuff. Everywhere you go, you can see like 5-story pagodas. Sometimes you'll even see like the Buddhist monks that will shave their heads, like totally bald. And the women do it too, and so it's really hard to tell like who's a woman and who's a man with the Buddhist monks. It's kind of funny. But they'll be walking around, and they have like their little straw hats, and they hum as they walk. And just like, sometimes they do trains of Buddhist priests, and they'll walk through like streets and just like hum and chant and just walk down the street. It's pretty funny. So they use Japanese yen. When it's about 100 yen is $1. And the cost of living there is pretty high overall, because it's such a small country. You've got 130 million people packed into a size, roughly the same size as California. And all in Japan, there's just jagged mountains in the middle, which they can't really build on, and they're all forested. And so anywhere that's flat, or like the coast, it's all built up. All built up. There's hardly any space that's just like not used. It's either a rice field or a building or a street. Like, that's it. And so most of the people don't have houses. Some of the people, if you go out into the countryside, will have a house. But most of it's just like apartment buildings, like 6-7-story apartment buildings just everywhere. And that's what most people live in, these tiny little apartments. So families are pretty small because they can't afford much more than that. It's pretty expensive. The homes are funny because you can't wear shoes in your house. That's totally bad. And you'll get yelled at for it sometimes if the person that you're visiting is really stingy. But you go inside, and they have a place called the Genkan, which is this little square area right in front of the door. And you take off your shoes there, and you line them up nicely, and you say like "ojama shimasu," which in Japanese means literally like, I'm interrupting you. They're really polite. And so every time you enter the house or leave, you have to say like special greetings to like let the people know that you're entering or leaving, even though they already know you're there. But you go inside the house. They have floors called tatami, which are made out of like bamboo strings tied really tight, and they're really soft and nice to sit on. They don't have as much furniture as Americans do. We always have tables and chairs. Sometimes they just have like a flat floor space, and you kneel on it and you talk that way, or have like a really short tiny table and you just kneel at that and visit with the family or eat dinner. And it's called seiza, the kneeling position, and you just kind of sit on your legs. And for most Americans, it hurts. That hurts. It takes some getting used to. By the end of the mission, you can do it for an hour on end, but when you're first there, like 3 minutes in, you're just sitting on your ankles and you feel your feet go to sleep, and it hurts. I think a lot of Americans don't know which car industries are Japanese, but like Toyota, Honda, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Subaru, those are all Japanese cars. And they have plants in other places, but like the car industry is really big in Japan. They make lots of cars and export them. So the government in Japan is kind of similar to England, to Britain. They have an emperor who lives in a fancy royal palace somewhere in Tokyo that no one ever sees. He just lives there. And like in ancient Japan, the emperor was treated almost like a god. He was God. Like the name for him in Japanese is Tenno, and it means like heaven, like leader kind of thing. And so they have their royal family, but they're run by a parliament. Like the emperor doesn't really have a say in politics nowadays. And it's basically like, I guess, a parliamentary system like you would have in Great Britain or any other country. And their election system is pretty funny. There's always elections going on. And they're allowed to do like car rallies. And so you'll see like cars with 6 people in them. And they'll have a big megaphone on top of the car, and they'll just drive around the city and shout like about the politician that they want you to elect. And you'll have this all year round for either like the city elections or like the prefectural election, or you know, the bigger national elections. It's everywhere. And they can, if they don't like their prime minister, it's actually pretty easy to kick him out. Sometimes they change like their prime minister every year. So people don't even like know who he is anymore.